Welcome to Heritage Acres Homestead. I'm Chas. Here you'll find our family as we strive to live a life that pleases the Lord. We do our best to make the most out of what we've been given, so we'd like to invite you to come along and join us on our journey.
Good morning, y'all, and welcome to Heritage Acres Homestead. I'm Chas, and today we are going to talk about pumpkins. I love pumpkins, and I wanted to share with y'all several ideas. Of course, they're whole food ideas because that's my passion, but I wanted to share with you how you can make several items from the humble pumpkin. It's not just for decorating. It's not just for Halloween. It's not just for pie. There are so many things you can make with pumpkins. And today I'm going to share a few of those with you. And I admit, I love the taste of pumpkin. I love the looks of pumpkins. I wanted to get a whole patch sown this year so I would have pumpkins running out my ears and I could put them everywhere. I'm talking about real ones. I make a lot of pumpkins to decorate with, but I'm talking about real ones. I wanted them all over my porch. I wanted them in the house, and it didn't happen. I still have that goal for next year, maybe. I love pumpkins. I love the taste of pumpkins. I love the look of pumpkins. I love it how when I decorate my home for fall, it's full of pumpkins. My husband teases me because I've been making crocheted pumpkins for, it's getting close to 20 years. And every year, right after July 4th, my hand gets to itching and I start wanting to crochet in the evenings. And what do I start making? I start making pumpkins. And it's just a fun thing that I do. It's a way to unwind. It's for me, I kind of made up my own patterns, so it's not a lot of thought process that goes into it. So I just stitch, and I can watch something, listen to something, and it's very decompressing to me. Like having to follow a pattern, I don't do so well. I have to have too much attention on that. But just to stitch a pumpkin, I've been doing it so long, and I just go with it. If it feels like it ought to be a big one, I make a big one. If it feels like it should be small, I'll make a small one. And I just do it. And so it's fun for me to sit in the evenings and make those pumpkins. And I love it when I get to share those with y'all. So I just love pumpkins. And my husband, I am a November baby, so, it comes with the territory. But my husband teases me and says, as many pumpkins as you make and as much stuff as you do with pumpkins and as much as you like them, people could think that we got like pumpkin worshipers going up on. And there's no pumpkin worship. There's just a very big appreciation for pumpkins. So I'm going to show you several things I do with pumpkins. I love them, and I really enjoy. Like I said, the inkling starts after July 4th, but I try to wait at least till mid-August to, if I can, September, to pull out my pumpkins. And I always decorate our home each year. I'm not a trendy decorator, y'all. I do not have trendy items. I use the same items every year until they are just no longer good. They're very inexpensive or handmade. And I posted on Instagram this past week. I said, I'm a homesteader and I want to live on a farm and I want to live kind of away from everything. But at the same time, I have stars hollow, in my soul. And if you know what that means I love Gilmore Girls, and I love the town where they, everything is decorated for every, holiday or season. And I've done that, but it's not because of, Stars Hollow. It's because that's the way my mother and my grandmother was. my Nanny Red, oh mercy, she loved to decorate and make things beautiful. And my mom always did the same and still does. And I like to run garland around my cabinets and around my porch railing for fall. And then I like to string up lights everywhere. And if you've been around here any amount of time, you'll see those changes through the year as we share, here and there. I even, we had a tree in the yard for a long time that I really loved. It was a silver maple. And I would go and I would climb that tree every year, and I would take Easter eggs and I would tie a string to them, and I would hang Easter eggs in the tree. And I remember when Cameo was small and her little friends were small, and they would come over and they would just think that was the neatest thing because I had Easter eggs hanging in the tree. I wonder why I never hung pumpkins in the tree. I should have, but I missed that tree because I love to decorate it. But anyways, I'm going to show you a few glimpses of the home, and I'm going to show you how to make some festive things for your family that's not going to cost you much, but it's going to give you just a fun idea to try, and a delicious one too. So when you start thinking about pumpkin, of course, you can get you a nice pumpkin to roast and scoop out the innards, roast it in the oven, and then use the flesh for any pie baking or any purees that you need. Like you're gonna need puree, pumpkin puree for the muffins that we're gonna make, and you're gonna need it for the pumpkin spice creamer and the lattes and all those things that we're gonna make today. But you don't have to roast a pumpkin if you don't want to. You can use pumpkin puree from the store from a can. And I do have both on hand. I have pumpkin puree that I've made in my freezer already, and I also have some that I bought from the store because, like I said, we use a lot of pumpkin, and I don't roast tons to keep in the freezer because I don't have that much freezer space. So if you were buying pumpkin from the store, and people ask this a lot if they're not used to it, you will find it in like where there's canned fruits or like pie fillings, and you're going to look for pure pumpkin. Now there is what they call pumpkin pie filling out there, and that's going to be something that you just basically dump straight into a pie shell, and you don't have to do anything else to it. This doesn't have anything in it besides pumpkin. It's just pure pumpkin puree. And this is what you're going to want to use if you go the route of buying your own pumpkin. You could use this for making pies, but you would add, your eggs and your cinnamon and your sugar and all those things to it to make it ready for a pie. But this is what you would also use for making our lattes or making our pasta sauce or whatever, if you don't want to roast a pumpkin. And I don't assume that everybody wants to roast a pumpkin, but I'm going to show you how in case you do. So before we can make all these wonderful pumpkin spicy things, we need to make some pumpkin spice. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 3 tablespoons of our cinnamon. And I do my herbs or my spices just like I do my flour. And I go in and I scoop and then I shake it. So there's 1. 2. And 3 of cinnamon. Now we're going to add 2 teaspoons of ground ginger. One, two. One teaspoon of ground allspice. One teaspoon of ground cloves. And you know what? I brought my nutmeg, but I didn't bring my grater. So let me go grab that. I got my grater. So now it's calling for about a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. And of course, you know good and well, I'm not gonna grind this into something and measure it out. So I'm just gonna grind enough so I think it's probably close to about a teaspoon and call it good. But I'm gonna talk to you while I do this. Now, of course, you could go to the store and buy pre-made pumpkin spice. And that I'm not condoning you. I mean, I'm not condemning you if you do that. It's not a big deal. It's just something that's already done. But if you've built yourself or are building yourself a working pantry, then you're probably going to have pretty much all these spices already in that pantry. So that's just eliminating something else that you need to buy from the store. And, you know, to me, that just is a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I just make this? Since I own all these spices, why wouldn't I just make some pumpkin pie spice? We're gonna call that good. And the last thing for your pumpkin pie spice, and you may think that this is a little odd, but I do believe that it is important, is a tiny little pinch of black pepper. And I don't think I got enough in that pinch. So I'm gonna add just another little pinch. So about a pinch. Let me pull you up here and talk to you for a minute. All right, let me talk to you for just a minute. Please do not be scared or, what's the word I'm looking for? Or like paralyzed because you're like, a pinch? I don't know what a pinch is. Honey, yes you do. Grab your jar, pinch with your fingers, pinch some out, that's your pinch. It is as easy as that. I think we get so caught up in exactness that we forget that, again, cooking and baking, there is so much intuition there. And I know everybody's like, baking's a science, baking's a science. And it is. But there are lots of leeway. Lots and lots of leeway. It doesn't have to be so precise on many of our home cooked things. So don't let that inhibit you or make you worry that you don't know exactly how much of this or that. You do. It's going to be good. It's going to be plenty close enough. So now we've got our pumpkin pie spice. I did not bring a fork over, so I'm just going to use my little measuring spoon here, and I'm going to stir it up. You want to make sure there's no clumps of anything that you added. So use that edge of the spoon to just break those up if there is any. My ginger had a few clumps in it, it looks like. You could run this through a strainer if you really wanted to get in there and make sure there was no clumps, but I don't think that that's necessary. Just press on it, it'll break apart. Yum, it smells so good. So I'm gonna make my little jar here, and this is just like, it's like a half pint. I'm gonna put my spice into this and then label it, and that way I can keep it in my cabinet with all my other spices. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start with a wide mouth mason jar. And now I'm gonna add pumpkin puree. And this is because I had some already, because I made this creamer the other day. And I just put the rest of the pumpkin puree in the fridge. But I mean, I'm using a Christmas spatula. I don't have a fall spatula. And I keep these out all the time, so, you know, it's okay. So I'm just gonna add this pumpkin puree right into the jar. I wish I had a better angle still. Like this tripod's better, but it still doesn't give us a good, like really you need, you know, to get it nice, you need one camera filming you and doing it, and then another filming like what's in the jar and what's happening. We're not professionals, y'all. Y'all know that. So, all right, there's our cup-ish of puree. And then we're gonna take a heaping teaspoon. All right, here's another lesson. Teaspoon. Where you shake it, or you know, use your finger or a knife to kind of smooth it off, and it's level. That's teaspoon. A heaping teaspoon. And if you know these things, do not be aggravated that I'm talking to you like this. I don't know what stage you're at in your journey. I want to speak to everyone, whether they're newbies or whether they're seasoned. So just bear with me if you know this stuff, and realize that there are some that don't. And I get messages every single day from people who don't know, and I don't want to leave anybody out. So if you know, yay. If you don't, I'm glad you're here and you're learning. I'm glad everybody's here. All right, heaping, see that? Means it's heaped on the top. See, and I can make it a smaller heaping, or I can make it a larger heaping. It's just your preference. But a heaping just means it's heaped on the top. So that's what we're gonna go with. A heaping teaspoon right into our jar. Now here, and you know, I'm giving you measurements, but I'm not gonna usually measure. Now, I thought this was open already. It's been in the fridge. Anyways, you're going to use your, this is just pure maple syrup, and you're going to use however much you think. Start with a half a cup and see if you need more once you get closer to the end. You're gonna taste it and then see if it's, oh, that's not sweet enough for me. I want it sweeter. Of course, just add milk, add more. So we're gonna go with about a half cup. I adore real maple syrup. Adore it. I love it. Nothing like it. I wish I could make my own. That would be something I would do. And my favorite ever, vanilla. And y'all know I make my own and I use my own. But for special things where I really want that very warm, prominent vanilla, I go for my favorite. And we're going to put a teaspoon or two into our jar. And I really want that vanilla to shine, so that's why I'm using that. So now here's where you can change it up a little bit. I mean, obviously you can change any of this, but for those of you who, I know I had some people message me and ask about how to make it keto and how to make it dairy free and all these kind of things. So I'm going to give you some options here. My preferred way for this recipe is half milk, half cream, or maybe 60% cream and 40% milk, that kind of thing. It's very close to half-half, but I prefer the creaminess. So cream and milk is what I like to use the most. If you were on keto or you needed to make sure there was like absolutely, negligible, or not really negligible, but very little milk, if any at all, just do all cream. If you don't want any milk in there, do all cream. If you want to make it dairy free, you can use your milk of choice. If you do almond milk or oat milk or whatever it is that you like. Here's where I'm going to say something, and I want, just please know my heart about it, okay? If you have taken the road thinking that almond milk, oat milk, all these alternative milks are better for you, let me plead with you to give raw milk a shot. See if that doesn't help with some of the issues you might be having with regular store milk. If you're having issues with regular store milk, try raw milk if you can get it. It may be the answer to some of your problems. I believe that a lot of our issues in our modern society are because we've adulterated so many of the good, pure forms of milk. No matter what Matt Walsh or whoever else says out there about things being, stupid to drink anything raw, that it was for our safety. It might have been for our safety to begin with, but if things are handled properly, I think raw milk is the best. Like, it's almost medicinal, because those good bacterias, those good enzymes in the milk are not destroyed, and they're going to benefit your body so much that I'll just say it again. If you unless there's some kind of deathly allergy, and I'm not speaking to you, I'm sorry for you if that's going on. But if it's just a sensitivity, maybe try raw milk and see if it doesn't help. Off the soapbox, back to it. Now this is our raw milk, and it has not been strained or skimmed. So I'm just going to put that in because it is very rich and delicious. And I'm going to have to get some more before I can finish. But because I don't always skim it unless I'm making butter, this is going to be exactly the consistency that I want for our creamer. So I'm going to go ahead and go in, and I'm just going to start giving that a little bit of stir, and I'll come back once I have the rest of my milk to finish. All right, y'all, so I'm just stirring away. And then what I want to do is I want to come in with the rubber spatula and just get any, clumps of of our spices off the edge. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape that off and add a lid. Make sure it's good and secure, and then shake it. All right, now let me just tell you, when you make your own creamer, because you're using whole ingredients, whole foods, yes, this is going to be a little thicker than what you're going to buy from the store. There may even be a little different of the taste, but it's going to hit those vibes, those PSL, it's got all that there. I want you to broaden your mind. Now, I seem to talk to y'all like my children, don't I? Or don't get offended with me if I do. I want you to understand that we all have places of growing and learning and changing, and I just want to help you. So I'm not trying to talk down. I'm just trying to talk encouraging to you. So, and just like I would say to my kids, if there was something that they were like, well, this is not like the store-bought, Mom, which I told you before, my kids are used to me making everything here. But this is going to give you that same taste. There may be a thicker, because there's real pumpkin in here, but that's not a bad thing. Just go and make sure you really get in there and stir your coffee up. Maybe even put it through a blender, or have one of those little handheld blenders. I used to have one that has the tiny little whisk on the bottom, and it zips it up for you. Those are great. I use a frother. Again, sometimes my bougie shows, doesn't it? I'm not a bougie person, but I think I've told you before, I love a frother because I like my cream hot, so it doesn't make my coffee cool. I want my coffee hot, I want my cream hot, I want it frothy, and I want it almost velvety. And it makes it decadent. And it's like, I don't know, to me, it's worth that extra few minutes to really enjoy that cup of coffee. And it makes me more satisfied that I don't need 6 cups of coffee. I can enjoy that 1 to 2 cups in the morning and just be like, yes, that did it. I'm good. Let's hit the floor and get things done. So yeah, give this a shot and see if it doesn't fix all your PSL cravings that you have for the season. I know it does mine. I would much prefer this over. Oh, we haven't even talked about the price. You're saving so much money by making this yourself. Okay, I'm not gonna go to, the place that has the coffee and buy my PSL there. I'm gonna make it, but I'm gonna buy my creamer. Okay, well, that is a step to save you some money. But let me interject. Did you know that pretty much 90% to 95% of those creamers in your store, especially the ones that are flavored, have bioengineered or questionable ingredients? I know I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer, but it's true. You saw how easy this was to make. I'm telling you how delicious I believe it is. But you can do this for a fraction of what you just spent at the store for. It only took a few minutes. And you're making this yourself at home with what you know's in it. You know what kind of coffee you have. And then there's your reward is even greater because good ingredients and cheaper. So that's another one of my encouragements there because I always want to save money, because who doesn't? In today's economy, it's so hard to make ends meet, and you're like, I can't afford good food. But I'll tell you, if we stop buying the bad food and start putting it toward the good food, it really does make a difference. And cooking it at home, of course. I'm getting on a tangent. I'll stop. There's our first creation. Second creation. We made our spice first. Now we've made our pumpkin spice creamer. Enjoy yourself a cup of coffee. I'm popped back on just for a minute. If you do not want to go the creamer route, you're going to use all these same ingredients for the most part to make your own pumpkin spice latte. If you just wanted to make a single and you didn't want to make a big batch of creamer, a single's just as easily made at home. What I would suggest for you to do is to brew some coffee and then put it on your stove. And if I can I made a reel for Instagram a while back. If I can get that to load on here, I'll share it. But you take that coffee, then you add your tablespoon of pumpkin to it, and you're going to put it in a little pot on the stove. And then you're going to add the sweet that you like, maple syrup, sugar, whichever. Then you're going to add you some cream, and then add your pumpkin pie spice and your vanilla, and just heat it up on the stove, and then pour it into your cup. And that's how you make a single. So that's just another way of going if you don't want to make the creamer route. If you don't want to make the creamer route and you want to just make yourself a single, there you go. All right, so now we're going to make pumpkin muffins, which is one of my family's favorites. So what we're going to start with is we're going to cream our butter and sugar. And I feel like I always do this. I feel like I have to go in and kind of explain myself. But on the recipe, it says 1.5 cups of fat. I'm going to start with a cup, and I might add that extra 1/2 cup, but I may not. I may just use it as a cup, and I think it'll still be fine. So we're going to use a cup of butter here. Now, if you want to use a cup of oil, a cup of lard, whatever you want to use is fine. You use what you like and have. I was going to use 1/2 lard and 1/2 butter, but my lard somehow looks off, so I'm not using it. So there's that. And now to that, I'm going to add our sugar or our sweetener, and I'm using just a non-GMO sugar, but you could use, sucanat. You could use brown sugar if you wanted. You could use, you could probably even use maple syrup. You might, I don't know if maple syrup and regular sugar would be same for same. I would have to look that up, but I think you could do it. And so we're going to start that and let that cream together, and then we're going to add our pumpkin. So I'll mute you so you don't have to listen to this. Now, I did not thaw my own pumpkin puree like I should have for this video. So I'm using pumpkin puree from a can, and my can opener is kind of garbage, so it didn't open the can properly, but it got open enough. So we're going to spoon in this whole entire can, and the recipe calls for 2 cups. A can is perfectly enough.
blend that some more. Now we're going to add 4 eggs, and because our eggs come from here on the farm, I like to crack them into a small bowl just to make sure, because you never know, sometimes there's weird eggs. That's just life with real food. Sometimes you might get a wonky egg, or you might get a shell in there. So I just crack them in a small bowl and then add them into my mix. Alright, 4 eggs. Clean up as we go. Now we're going to go ahead, this is what I do. I go ahead and add my spice. So this is 2 teaspoons of our pumpkin pie spice. Okay. And then I'm going to wipe this off. And then I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of my homemade vanilla. Like I told you before, my homemade vanilla is very good. But it's just not that other vanilla that I'm crazy about. So I'll go back up there. Alright, let's mix this up. Now we're going to get our flour, and we're going to get our baking soda and baking powder and salt. Now if you were a good and proper baker, you would put all this together and sift it and put it into the mix. Y'all know I'm not a good and proper baker. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure out my flour. Again, we scoop it and we shake it. And then we get, there's 1, and this is just all-purpose flour. 2, and 3. Now I'm going to add our teaspoon of salt. Our teaspoon of baking powder, and our 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Cover it and let that blend while it clean up. Another quick spin. Now it's time to grab the chocolate chips. Now I'm going to show you a little trick that I do. Keep you some chocolate chips in your bag. You want about, I think it's about 2 cups that go in this. You can use more or less. Let's take this off and go back to the table. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our muffin pan, and I should have done this before I started the video, and we're going to line it with muffin liners or cupcake liners, because to me it just makes it easier when we go to eat them. It makes me not have to worry about greasing the pan so well. But I want to show you a little trick of what I do.
to get those really pretty bakery style muffins at home. And you know, that's what we ought to do. We ought to try to make our food beautiful, and not that we have to go way overboard or anything or elaborate, but there's just a few easy techniques that we can use to make things beautiful and professional looking. So what we're going to do is I've got a little bit of fat, which I'm using olive oil, in my bowl here, and I've got a pastry brush, and I'm going around the top of this muffin pan, and I'm just brushing it because I want this to be non-stick for when I fill this muffin tin with really big, I want those big, beautiful bakery muffins, and I want them to mound up and have that muffin top on top. And if I don't grease this, they'll stick. And that is a tip I learned from the Barefoot Contessa. How easy is that? So let's finish greasing the top here. And make sure you get all the way around it, because it would be so sad to have that beautiful mounded muffin and it's stuck to the pan and it wouldn't look nearly as lovely. May still taste just as good, but we also eat with our eyes. There we go. That part looks a little dry. Let me fix that. There we go. All right, set that out of my way. Now, here's the next tip. I use a cookie scoop for my muffin batter. I do it for cupcakes too. I go in, and I get a pretty hefty mound, like, you know, pretty much to the top, and I pop that in, and that almost fills my whole muffin liner. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to get a smidge more because I want to overfill it just by hair so we get that puff and the really nice mounded muffin. So it's almost a scoop and a half. I'd say it's about a scoop and a half. And before I finish all these, let me show you this. And then the next part, save those, like I told you to save those chocolate chips, a few of those for the top, or a few of those till the end. Now come in here and add just a few to the top of your muffins. Dot those muffins, that way you have those chocolate chips peeking out, and people will know that there's chocolate chips in there. You'll see them, and it will be decorative too. This batter smells so delicious. I did 4 or 5. Alright, just pulled them out of the oven. I'm going to show you. Now these are not as big as some, but look how easily they lift up.
got that muffin top. And they just lift right out of that muffin pan with no problem. All right, y'all, as you can tell, it's later in the day because I've already got my apron all mussed because I'm a messy cook. But I've started, I've got my cast iron on the stove, and I threw some butter in it, and it's hot, so I've got a fan on me. But the first thing we're going to do for our sauce is get this butter started melting, and then we're going to toss in some garlic and let it saute and sweat out. So I'm going to grab my garlic, and after this butter gets going, we're going to toss that in. I've got 2 cups of pumpkin puree that's in the sink that's been defrosting. It's probably still not defrosted all the way, but I'll finish it here in the pan once we add it. So let's get the garlic. Because I have fermented all, I had no fresh garlic, I fermented it all, so I'm going to use my fermented garlic, and it works just fine. I'm gonna have to turn this down to cook with. I don't want to get no hair in my foods, and it's blowing my hair all over the place, but I'm hot, so maybe I can just turn this down, and it can blow on me, but not necessarily my hair. That's a little better. I'm ready for the cool weather to catch up with us because my heart is already in the cool weather. But we're supposed to get some that ain't gonna fit, some very much needed rain by the weekend. And it's supposed to cool down with that. Grab my knife. I'm gonna get some of this garlic and chop it up. And I'm over here on my little prep station beside the stove. I'm gonna get about, 5 or 6 cloves of garlic. All right, I got it. Garlic's chopped. Now you don't want garlic to burn, so don't let it just sit there and get bitter on you. Got it right there in that fat, and I'm gonna run and grab my pumpkin. But it's okay. We'll make it work. You see how pretty that pumpkin is? And that is what I roasted. Whoa. Just gonna pop these out of the freezer containers. I'll link these. I really prefer glass storage, but when I'm using stuff in the freezer, I do not like glass because of the breakage. So I use those they're called Ready-Tainers Extreme Freezeware, I think. They work really well. So I'm gonna give this pumpkin a little bit of time to defrost in the pan, and I'll catch back with you when it is. All right, so it's getting a lot more
heated through, and I'm going to add just about a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And I'm going to start adding some seasoning. And I know we've got garlic in there already, but I'm going to add onion powder and garlic powder, because I pretty much put that in everything I cook. Grab this. Then I'm going to add a teaspoon of oregano and basil. And what I like to do with that is I like to come in and get it, put it in my hand if it's dried, and really rub it together in my hand to break those oils open so it'll start to get fragrant and the taste will come through. I'm going to do the same for the basil. Leave that over there in case I need some more. Add some salt. Add some pepper. Stir it up some more. All those frozen bits are just about defrosted down. All right, so now I'm going to take my milk, and as you can see, this is some more of our raw milk, and there's the cream line. I'm not scooping the cream. I'm just going to give it a little shake so the cream's not just on the top. And I'm going to pour in about a cup or so of this milk. I had quite a lot of spaghetti noodles in the fridge from making it several days ago, and I don't waste any leftovers we have if at all possible. So normally, if I was making this to begin with, I would probably put another noodle in it besides spaghetti, but since I have those left over, we're going to use those noodles. I'm going to grab me a tasting spoon and taste this real quick, see if our flavors need to be adjusted. Pumpkin gives such a hardiness to the flavor, in my opinion. It's really nice. Now, pull you up here so I can talk to you. Because my husband, he eats pretty substantially. He is, he's not like a massive guy, but he's a big guy. He's over 6 foot tall, and he has a metabolism like a rocket. So he needs fuel, and he works physically all day long. So he needs sustenance. And for that reason, I try to make sure there's plenty of protein in our meals. So this is great, delicious with some pasta. It'll be delicious, but he needs more. So the other night, I sauteed up some ground beef, Italian sausage, and onions and garlic, and I'm going to toss this into our sauce. So you can absolutely leave your sauce just as the pumpkin if you like. Do not feel like you have to add the meat if you don't want to. But if you do, it'll be tasty too. And your husband might be like mine and need that extra. So this is something that I may not have talked to you a whole lot about, but I am very adamant about waste not. If I can help it, I never want to waste food in our home. So you absolutely can take stuff from other meals and make it a brand new meal. And this is exactly what we're doing tonight. This will have no reminiscence of what I used the sausage and beef for the other night, because it is brand new. I'm also going to go ahead and add our noodles back in, and that way some of that starchiness will just kind of be incorporated throughout, and it'll heat the noodles back up too. Now I'm gonna probably switch my utensils here and move to some tongs so I can serve this easier. But I've got all that kind of in there, and now I'm just gonna let it heat. Decided I'm going to add a little bit of nutritional yeast right here on top. Alright, let's serve this up. You can garnish it with some parsley, dot it with a little Parmesan cheese, and there you go. All right, you may wonder why I'm just so adamant about telling you about these pumpkins and all the things that you can do with them. Besides the seasonal love, there are good reasons to grow and eat pumpkin. Pumpkins are high in antioxidants. They're great for your skin because they're high in beta carotene, which also is great for your heart. They're cancer fighters, and we all want that in our lives. They're good for your blood sugar. They help to balance blood sugar. They're what you want to call like a slow burning carb. They're not, those high refined carbs that are going to burn through fast and leave you with a crash. They're slow burning carbs, the healthy carbs. Because they're good for helping you to lose weight, because a slow burning carb will leave you with a more full sensation after you've eaten. So I'm not saying, go eat a bunch of pumpkin pie and you're going to lose weight, but adding pumpkin to your diet would be a good idea, as I do. They're great sources of zinc, and so that's great for men and their prostate. Can improve sleep. That's another great thing. Those of us who kind of hit in the middle age and sleep is elusive sometimes, pumpkins are a great thing to add to our diets so there's quite a few reasons why you might want to add pumpkins to your diet. Now today what we're going to do, we're going to roast this little pie pumpkin, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And from that roasting, you can then make your own pumpkin puree. So here's a neat thing that you could do with a pumpkin. Now this one is a little bit small for this project, but you'll get the idea. So when you have a special family get together, just a special night, like every year we have a night where we have pumpkin carving and chili, and this would be a perfect time to do that. You can take a pumpkin, and for our family it'd have to be much larger than this one, but you can take it, you can cut the top off, scoop out the innards, and save those for roasting later. You can roast those seeds for later, and then roast your pumpkin. Now you want to roast it just to the point where it's fork tender. And when you do that, then you can pull that pumpkin out of the oven, set it on your table for a display, and then spoon or ladle your soup into the pumpkin. And you can eat some of the pumpkin flesh with your soup. And it's really a festive, beautiful tablescape. I've done it before for my family. I just loved it, which I love to do things like that, little special kind of theme nights. And then we had a sourdough bowl that I wrapped up in twine to give it the pumpkin indentions, and it was so much fun. I just was really thrilled with that. I'll have to try to find some pictures and show you here. But other than that, you can roast the pumpkin to make your own pumpkin puree, and I'm going to show you how. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to do is take a clean rag and just wipe down the pumpkin. We just want to make sure it's not going to get any debris in the inside once we go to cut it open. With a sharp knife, we want to lop off the top here. I think my knives need to be sharpened. Now, this is the point where if you wanted to use this as like a terrine, you could scoop out the innards and leave the flesh, which let me just go ahead and show you. When I say that, see right there, there's that soft part where all the seeds are. And you would scoop that out. Pretend we scooped all the seeds out. And then we would roast it just like this. But because I'm not making a soup terrine tonight, I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. And I'm going to scoop our seeds into a bowl so I can save those seeds to roast later. So we've got them here. They're cleaned out, face down on a baking sheet. They're going to go into a 400-degree oven for probably I'm going to say like 45 minutes, maybe, because it's so small. If it's bigger, it's probably going to take longer. It's still fairly warm. I'm going to flip it over so you can see that. See how easy that just pulls off of the skin now? And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're just going to scoop all that out. And that is your pumpkin puree. Now you can, be careful, it's hot. You can take this and you can put it in a food processor and, blend it up some. Or it's just so soft, you can just mash it. And that's probably what I'll do, since there's not a whole lot of it, because it's such a little pumpkin. I'll just pull that skin away. And you can put that into a freezer bag and freeze it, or you can put it into one of those little ready-made containers like I had, and I'll link those in the bottom. As long as they say extreme freezer, then that's the ones you would want. But they're really nice to have for things like this. And then, you know, if you measure it out before you put it in that container, then you know exactly how much you have, and you can measure out exactly how much you would want. Like I did 8 ounces. So if I needed 2 cups, I could have two of those and make a pie or a pasta or whatever. So there you go. That's just that easy. So here I have the pumpkin packed in one of these little ready tainer, I think is what they're called. Little ready tainers, ready for the freezer. And just the dark spots is where it got a little more caramelized because of the natural sugars. But pumpkin is for way more than pie, y'all. So don't be afraid to get that pumpkin, roast it off, and make some puree, and get ready to have it in many dishes, far beyond the traditional pumpkin pie. Now make sure you have some pumpkin pie, because I think it's one of the best, but you can use it in a variety of ways. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you don't follow or subscribe already, please do so. I'd love to have a comment from you, or for you to share the video, or just tell me something that you would like to see in the future, because it really helps me out when I hear feedback from y'all. Thank you again, and God bless you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.